How many spiders can be placed on a body at one time? Is it possible to hold the static position for more than 8 hours? And thanks to what coolest invention can you become a record holder? Today, you'll find the answers to these questions. And in this episode, I'll tell you about the craziest Guinness World Records that will give you goosebumps. Just recently, a truly insane record was set. It was set by an Australian teenager named Tom Buchanan. He came to the Guinness World Record show in Sydney, Australia. He brought with him more than 100 golden orb spiders. Tom decided to set a record for placing the most spiders on his body. This guy's crazy because many people flee at the sight of a spider, and just a few people can place an arthropod on their bodies. To set an unusual record, a glass box was built on the stage, to which Tom laid down. At the signal of the presenter, the assistants in gloves began to turn the containers with spiders on the teenager. The spiders immediately began to walk around on Tom's stomach and chest. With the spiders walking around on his body, Tom lay there for around 30 to 40 seconds, after which he expressed his willingness to finish the show. The assistants collected the spiders, sending them back to their containers, and a happy Tom climbed out of the box to the applause of the audience. And he set the record, of course, 125 spiders on a body for 30 seconds. Hoops. If you've been hula hooping, you probably know that it's not as simple an exercise as it may seem at first glance. Of course, if you get used to it, there's nothing complicated about it, but at first the hoop is not for everyone, let alone spinning several hoops simultaneously. But an Australian gymnast named Marawa Ibrahim tried it, and for her, a couple of hoops around her waist is a trifle. The girl is capable of more because in November 2015, she set the incredible record. In Los Angeles, she spun as many as 200 hula hoops simultaneously. Thus, Marawa broke her own record, which she set in 2014. Then the gymnast spun 160 hula hoops. Although she could not spin the hoops long enough, they did complete several rotations. And why am I even talking about time? Even just putting that many hoops on yourself is extremely difficult. By the way, in 2017, another interesting record was set by Japanese Yuya Yamada, aka Hoopman Yuya. He set the record for spinning the largest hula hoop in the world. Yuya managed to spin a hoop that was 5.14 meters long. Yuya set the record without much difficulty when the hoop made several rotations around his waist. It looks strange, of course, but it's still very cool. Not everyone can do it. Plank. How long are you able to hold a plank? Some of you might be able to hold it for a minute or two, and some of you might even hold it for 5 minutes. But for George Hood, 1, 2, or 5 minutes is a trifle. He can literally hold a plank for hours because he's the current Guinness Book record holder for holding an abdominal plank position. In February 2020, 62-year-old George, who's a former U.S. Marine, held a plank for 8 hours and 15 minutes and 15 seconds. It's not even easy to stand for that long on your feet, let alone such a strenuous static exercise. George told that he spent a year and a half preparing for the record, training 7 hours every day, doing push-ups, squats, and plank. While setting the record himself, the former Marine listened to heavy rock music. When it was hard, he made the music louder to make it sound like he was at a rock concert. The heavy music and long training helped. The representatives of the Guinness Book recorded a new record. By the way, the craziest thing happened later. Despite 8 hours of suffering, incredible fatigue, and numb hands, George immediately celebrated setting the record by doing 75 push-ups. Crazy Marine. We've done with a plank, but what about pull-ups? How many pull-ups can you do? Write the number in the comments, and now write a comment if you can do pull-ups using only your fingers, or more precisely, using only 2 pinky fingers. I'm sure that there are literally only a few people who can do this. Among them is the next hero of this episode. Stay tuned to see how many pinky pull-ups he can do, as well as see other incredible Guinness World Record holders who amaze with their abilities. So, pull-ups. Not the easiest, but not the most difficult physical exercise either. Learning to do pull-ups is not that hard, but only if we're not talking about 2-finger pull-ups. An Indian named Maiban Itomba Maitai spent 14 years perfecting his pull-up technique. He got in shape as well as trained his fingers because Maiban wanted to break the record for pull-ups on his pinky fingers. He succeeded. In 2014, the incredible Indian set the record for doing 16 pinky pull-ups. It only took him 30 seconds to set such an insane record. You can see from the video that my bomb did not waste any time in training. He performed pull-ups very cleanly and smoothly, without any bouncing or jerking. Without looking at his hands, you would not even say that he pulls himself up with the help of only 2 pinky fingers. By the way, my bomb himself weighs about 50 kilograms. Some would say that it's easy enough for people of that weight to pull themselves up, and to some extent it is. But whatever your weight is, you have to be incredibly strong and well-trained to pull yourself up like that with just your pinky fingers. Bubbles inside the bubble. Everyone loved blowing soap bubbles as a child, right? I'm sure many of you competed with your friends to see who could blow the biggest bubble, or who could blow as many bubbles as possible. A young guy from Taiwan named Chang Yu-Ti was definitely the best among his friends. And now he can be called the best soap bubble handler in the world, because the guy owns several Guinness World Records at once. In September 2020, he set the record for the most soap bubbles inside one giant soap bubble. He first blew the base, a giant soap bubble, and then, holding it with one hand, began blowing small bubbles inside. The sight's not only beautiful, but also very impressive. In about a minute and a half, Chang managed to blow 783 soap bubbles inside. But that's not all. A month later, Chang set a new record for the most bounces of a soap bubble. It bounced 290 times. The bubbles seemed to obey this guy and just flatly refused to burst in his hands. According to Chang, he became interested in soap bubble tricks when he saw a similar performance on the internet. He started practicing regularly until he felt confident enough to try to set a record. Well, he's already got 2 records with more to come. Spray water from the mouth. The Guinness Book also has some absolutely bizarre records. For example, the book has a section on the longest time to spray water from the mouth. That is, the record holder literally takes water in their mouth and then spits it out, or more precisely, sprays it from the mouth. The longer it lasts, the better. The current holder of that strange record, which is nonetheless impressive, is a guy from Ethiopia named Kirubal Yilma. He set a record in the Ethiopian capital of Addis Ababa in September of 2016 in front of a crowd of spectators. First, the guy drank several bottles of water, or rather took all that water in his mouth. I wonder how it all fit there. Then he counted to 3 and started spitting the water out. The fountain was going for a very long time. Incredibly, Kirubal sprayed water for 56 seconds without stopping for even a second. As the record holder said afterwards, he knows some techniques that allow him to use his muscles more effectively, which is why he's able to spray water for such a long time.
Squirtle! Water gun attack now! Squirtle!
And here's another weird record that's not in the Guinness books yet, but may soon be. Anyway, it's a world record and it's crazy enough, so it's worth talking about. I'm talking about the achievement of bodybuilder Courtney Olson. She's capable of cracking watermelons like nuts, and she does it not with her hands and not with her head, but with her hips. She recently set a world record destroying 3 watermelons with her thighs in just 7.5 seconds. She became the all-time record holder in this unusual sport, breaking both previous women and men's records. This video shows that Courtney really smashes watermelons with her thighs. She only holds the berries with her hands. As the bodybuilder stated, with her achievement, she shows that women are also the strong sex, and she strives to empower women. Well, she's doing a great job. The Guinness Book is not just for athletes, talented geniuses, or people who have set or broken strange records. Inventors can end up there too. One of them is James Hobson, a Canadian engineer and YouTube blogger.
Should I just try it? Should I just swing my arm right through?
I'm sure there are plenty of Star Wars fans among you, so you'll definitely like this guy because he's the first person in the world who created a lightsaber. And no, I don't mean the LED stick that lights up.
General Kenobi.
I mean a lightsaber, which is as close as possible to the one shown in the movies. This is a real weapon, which blade emerges from the hilt. What's more, like the lightsaber from the movies, James' invention is capable of wounding opponents and splitting objects, because the temperature of the Canadian lightsaber is 2,200 degrees Celsius. The only pity is that Hobson's lightsaber requires a backpack behind the back. But even so, this lightsaber looks pretty cool. Would you like to fight against a Sith with it? That's all, guys. What record could you set for the Guinness Book of World Records? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching and see you later.